There are quotes we hear once and forget, and there are quotes that make us stop, as if someone just shined a light on the truth we've always tried to avoid. Lessons that sound simple on the surface, yet hit right where we hide our pain. The exhaustion of pretending to know it all, the loneliness inside our own life, the feeling of existing without truly living, the fear of failure that keeps us from trying anything new. They remind us of the limits we put on ourselves, the mistakes we're afraid to face, and the chances we've lost simply because we weren't brave enough to become a better version of who we are. If you've ever asked yourself, "Why do I try so hard and still feel empty?" leave a 1-inch the comments as your own way of admitting you're craving an awakening. There's a truth that very few people dare to admit. Most of the pain in our life doesn't come from big failures, but from small moments. The moments when we quietly ask ourselves, "Why do I know so much, but understand so little about myself?" You were taught many things in school, in society, by those who came before you, but almost no one taught you how to live a meaningful life. You know how to memorize, but not how to understand deeply. You know how to score high, but not how to heal your wounds. You know how to seem smart, but not how to face your real limitations. And that gap is what hurts you. It hurts when you see others confidently moving forward, while you, despite your knowledge, don't dare take a step. It hurts when you know you have potential, but your fear of mistakes stops you from trying anything new. It hurts when on the outside you seem fine, seem knowledgeable, but inside you feel empty. The cruelest part isn't that you're not good enough. It's that you're smart enough to know what you're missing, but not brave enough to change it. You've heard quotes like, "Don't try to be a person of success, try to be a person of value. A wise person avoids trouble before it appears." Anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new. But have you really lived by them? Or did you just nod and then forget them, like hundreds of other lessons in your life? Sometimes what you lack isn't knowledge. It's the courage to face yourself. It's not about being smarter. It's about being more honest. It's not about knowing more. It's about daring to ask, "Is this still right for me?" And in that exact moment, you step into the most important conversation of your life. The conversation with your own soul, the one you've been avoiding for so long. If these words make you feel exposed, if somewhere in your heart there's an empty space you've never dared to name, then comment, "I truly need to change." Not so others can see it, but so you can admit, it's time to live honestly, not just live properly. You're not lost because you're weak. You're lost because you've outgrown your old self, and the space between who you used to be and who you're becoming is what makes you feel confused, tired, and unsure of where to go next. That's a stage everyone has to go through, but few people dare to talk about. You feel like you're standing between two worlds. The old world no longer fits. The new world feels too scary to step into. You no longer want to live by the old standards, but you're not clear enough yet to define new standards for yourself. You look back at everything you've been chasing, and you realize a slightly frightening truth. A lot of things in your life weren't really chosen by you, but by expectations, advice, and pressure you absorbed without noticing. You thought you wanted stability, but deep down, You crave freedom. You thought you wanted safety. But your heart longs for challenge. You thought you wanted to please everyone. But you forgot the most important person, yourself. And when these new desires start to rise, they make your current life feel too small. That is the real reason for your feeling of being lost. You have changed, but your life hasn't yet. What makes this stage so difficult is not that you don't know what you want. It's that you do know. But you're not brave enough to admit it. To admit that you want more. To admit that you've outgrown the things that once satisfied you. To admit that you can't keep living under expectations that aren't yours. Being lost, under the right light, isn't darkness. It's a signal. It's a door. It's an invitation to step into a new chapter. A chapter where you live by your inner truth, not by what others want you to become. But before you step into that chapter, you need to face something you've avoided for a long time. You must dare to answer the question. Who am I really, without all the labels others put on me? And that question, if you dare to walk it to the end, will lead you into the deepest journey of all, the journey of returning to your true self. That is where the next part begins. The journey of facing, letting go, and being reborn. When you start asking, who am I, really, beyond what others say about me? That's the moment you touch the core of transformation. But the truth is, not everyone is ready to face that question. Because to answer it, you must look at the parts you've avoided. The fears, the expectations, the wounds you've covered up with busyness, silence, or a strong facade. And this is the turning point of your journey. If you want to find yourself, you must first dare to look straight at yourself. But facing yourself is not always easy. It asks you to admit that. You've forced yourself to be strong for too long. You're tired, but keep going so no one is disappointed. You've lived by other people's standards more than your own. Sometimes you feel lost, not because you have no direction, but because you were never taught how to listen to your inner voice. You were taught to succeed, to be good, to be knowledgeable. But almost no one taught you how to be authentic. Authenticity is the root of all peace. But to get there, you must climb a very steep hill, the hill of letting go of what you're used to. You used to think that holding on to everything would keep you safe. But in reality, what you're clinging to is what's pulling you away from your true path. Letting go isn't just leaving a relationship or walking away from a place. Sometimes, letting go is as simple as admitting, I don't have to be strong all the time. When you dare to admit that, you open a new door, a door to inner freedom. Freedom not because you have everything, but because you're no longer forced to be what you don't want to be. And slowly, you'll see a change. The things that exhaust you start to fall away. The things that bring you lightness begin to find you. Not because you're luckier, but because you've started to live according to your true nature. The next part is the most important turning point of this journey. The moment you realize, to be reborn, you must learn to let go. Letting go is one of the hardest lessons in life. Not because you don't want to move forward, but because you're too used to holding on to old habits, old limits, old protective shells you've used to hide your fear for years. What hurts you isn't change itself, but your resistance to it. You know you need to move forward. You hear life calling you. You clearly feel what no longer fits. But because you're used to your comfort zone, you choose to stand still. Even though deep down, you know standing still is another way of hurting yourself. Letting go is not loss. Letting go is freeing yourself from invisible chains you didn't even know you were carrying. Other people's expectations, old criticism, pointless comparisons, beliefs that keep you small. You think these things keep you safe. But they only keep you small when you dare to let go of an old lifestyle, an old mindset, an old version of yourself. You create space for better things to enter. And the beautiful thing is, letting go doesn't come from strength. It comes from honesty. Honesty in saying, "This no longer fits me. This is making me tired. I deserve more than this." Letting go doesn't always mean leaving. Sometimes, letting go means stopping. Stopping the need to please everyone. Stopping the habit of valuing others' opinions over your own feelings. Stopping the pattern of living by standards you never chose. And when you stop long enough, stay quiet long enough, listen deeply enough, you begin to see what you couldn't see before. You're not lost. You're growing. This growth isn't loud. It doesn't change you overnight. It shows up in small choices. A genuine yes. A firm no first. A moment of pausing to listen to your body. A single deep breath you allow yourself to take. These are the first steps toward your rebirth. And from here, the journey leads you to an even deeper truth. The peace you are searching for starts inside you, not out there. When you understand that peace starts within, you begin to see life differently. The things that once terrified you don't seem so scary. The things that once broke you become lessons. The things that once left you stuck now look like doors waiting to be opened. Because when you are grounded inside, the outside world can't control you the way it used to. You're no longer swayed by praise or criticism. You're no longer distracted by shiny but empty things. You no longer chase what is standard, because you've found your own standard. And in that moment you realize something many people never do. You are at your strongest when you live true to who you are. Peace is not the absence of storms. Peace is when the storm no longer pulls you away from yourself. You start choosing what you allow into your life. You no longer let others decide your worth. You no longer feel the need to convince everyone to understand you. You no longer keep relationships that drain your soul. You keep only what nourishes you. People who make you feel lighter, habits that help you grow, thoughts that move you forward. The more you understand yourself, the less you want to go back to your old life. Not because it was all bad, but because you've outgrown it. And this is the most powerful shift. You stop living just to survive, and start living to become. To become a clearer, deeper, calmer version of yourself. To become the person you know you can be. The person you forgot while chasing the world's expectations. And if you're feeling that inner shift, even just a small vibration, a quiet sense of this feels right, or a stillness that changes how you see life, that's not random. It's a sign you're ready to step into your new chapter. A chapter where you no longer live in confusion, but in awareness. A chapter where you no longer shrink yourself, but dare to expand. If you're ready for that new chapter, leave a 1. Not to follow a trend, not for engagement, but to mark a milestone for yourself. From here, I begin to live honestly. And in the moment you admit that, you've already placed 1 foot into the final chapter, the chapter where confusion ends, and the journey back to yourself truly begins. In the end, after you've walked through all those emotional layers, feeling lost, confused, confronting, letting go, transforming, you realize something strange. Maybe you were never truly lost. You were simply walking away from a version of yourself that no longer fit, and step by step, returning to the truest version inside you. And sometimes, to get back there, life has to take you through roads that make you feel directionless. But the truth is, it's those very roads that help you discover who you really are. Look back at the journey you've just gone through here. You once felt empty inside a life that looked stable. You once questioned your own worth. You once felt exhausted living by the world's standards. You once wandered in the space between 2 versions of yourself. But you're still here. You're still listening. You're still searching. And that alone is the greatest proof. You never gave up on yourself. There are people who live their whole life without ever daring to ask, am I living true to myself? You are different. The moment you asked that question, you became more mature than millions out there. You dared to feel your uncomfortable emotions. You dared to face truths you once ran from. You dared to let go of what no longer belonged to you. And from the moment you chose authenticity over perfection, your life quietly began to change direction. From here on, you will notice you're different. Not because the world has changed, but because you have changed the way you see it. You'll be gentler with yourself. You'll stop bending to fit every gaze. You'll stop clinging to what exhausts you, and stop resisting what opens your soul. You'll begin to believe that you deserve peace. You deserve kindness. You deserve a life that feels meaningful every time you wake up. The feeling of being lost will eventually pass. But what it gave you, awareness, self-understanding, growth, will stay with you for life. And if one day you feel confused again, lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, feeling lost in your own life, remember that you've been here before and you made it through. You're not afraid of the dark anymore, because you know you carry light inside you. The light of understanding, the light of honesty, the light of someone who dared to come home to themselves. You've gone farther than you think. You're stronger than you believe. And you're closer to your true self than ever before. This journey doesn't end here. It's just beginning. A new chapter, lighter, deeper, more honest. And I believe you will walk into that chapter with peace in your heart and courage in your eyes.